In the series on Lie of Aging, I mentioned that there are 5 components to aging, one of which is the only one we can't control, which is genetics. Well, day by day, we are learning how little genetics actually plays a part. And I found a recent study that, again, takes us one step further out of the genetic argument and shows us how much control we actually have over our ability to live longer today on the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast.
Welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast
with Garrett Williamson.
Health, wellness, exercise, nutrition, and a whole lot more. Got questions? Call us and leave a message at 251-278-EDGE or message us at Personal Edge Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, at Team PE on Twitter, or personaledgefitness.com.
Good day, and thank you so much for joining me for the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. This is Garrett Williamson, president of Personal Edge Fitness. Today we're going to be talking about yet another giant leap away from the genetic argument. Now, before I get going, the subtitle of this podcast is Dispelling the Myths of Health, Fitness, and Nutrition. And if you have any questions regarding this podcast, any of our past podcasts, or if you have a question about either health, fitness, or wellness that we can help you answer, please feel free to contact us. You can contact me at my email address, which is Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. You can also reach me via our Facebook page and our website, which are both Personal Edge Fitness, and of course the website is personaledgefitness.com. You can contact me at the mobile location at 251-341-0927, or feel free to reach out to our Eastern Shore location at 251-651-0927. As I said in the intro, and I've actually talked about this in the series on Lie of Aging, I talked about there's 5 components of age. Now these are, as I said in the podcast, you've heard me say many times before, and that is that these are not Garrett's 5 components of aging. They aren't Personal Edge Fitness's 5 components of aging. They are the 5 components of aging. Number 1 is genetics. Number 2 is fitness. Number 3 is nutrition. Number 4 is lifestyle. And number 5 is healthcare. Now, out of all 5 of those components, only one you can't control, and that is genetics. As I love to say, and I think it drives the point home, you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your parents. Please forgive me if you find that insulting. Those other 4, fitness, nutrition, healthcare, and lifestyle, as much as we may not believe it, they are all 100% controllable. With all due respect, they're 100% your responsibility. In fact, they are 100% your fault. Now, what we find in this field, in the field of fitness, I'm sure they find this in the field of pretty much all healthcare, is what I call the genetic argument. You know, I like to start off with definitions and what have you. I'm not going to give the definition of genes or genetic. I'm going to give you Garrett's definition of what he calls the genetic argument. And that is that I am able to do something, or I have something, or I can do something, or I have this affliction because of my genes. Now, don't get me wrong. I realize that I realize that we at least believe there is proof to that in certain afflictions. I am not ignorant to the fact that we have not proved that wrong yet in a lot of things. And I don't want to name any particular affliction or particular disease or what have you. I can name eye color. We know that's in genes. We understand that a lot of your makeup, my height, is possibly caused by genes. And I put these things like possibly, these little caveats in there because we are finding more and more. In fact, most research is dedicated to proving genetics wrong. Now, I'll tell you what I mean. And also, let me finish what I was saying about the genetic argument. And the genetic argument can be truth. It can be help you with an understanding. But many times, more times than it should, that's for sure, the genetic argument is used as an excuse. I'll give you my most ridiculous real-life example of the genetic argument really gone awry. I had a client And we were dealing with his weight loss. We were always dealing with his weight loss. It was the reason he was coming to see us. And one day when we were talking about his nutrition, his lack of activity, his overabundance of calories, and he made this statement that that my fat is hereditary. In other words, my fat is genetic. And he was not joking. He was absolutely 100% serious. He said, my fat is genetic. And all I could think was, okay, I'll bite. Please explain to me how your overabundance of fat is genetic. And he pointed at his rather rotund stomach and said, my daddy had all of his right here too. And so did my granddaddy. It killed me because he was absolutely serious. The reason he had this stomach was because and he walked around looking pregnant was because his father had it, and so did his grandfather. Therefore, it must be genetic. Too many times we make that argument, and we being individuals, being exercisers, being clients, also being health professionals. Many times, health professionals use that as a true answer, possibly, or something they truly do believe. I understand that there's limitations to the research that we have, and so we have not found any other cause for eye color. So it's in the genes, and that most likely, that's a little out of my pay grade, that most likely has been proven. But many times it's used as what I would call an excuse because we don't have another answer. And I don't really fault anybody for doing that unless they're too lazy to do the research to find out that, oh, well, actually we do have an answer for that particular affliction. But what I also find is year after year, we find that genetic argument being chipped away at. And I love that. I think I live for it, to tell you the truth. Finding that out or experiencing that is a passion I have. And when I find examples of this research, I do a happy dance. I get so excited about that because it continues to prove my point of the fact that age is a lie. Before I go too far down that road, let me go back to what I was talking about and saying that, okay, there are things that we used to believe were genetic, and now we know they aren't. Now I'm going to use some really ridiculous examples here to start with, but you may say, oh, well, that's commonly obvious. A lot of this common knowledge we didn't know. We really didn't know until we started to research it. Simple blindness. There was a time when we thought that every aspect of vision deterioration was just genetic. It just happened to you. And one day we realized that, if you sit and stare at the sun all the time, that's not good for you. In fact, we have proven that causes damage to your eyes. Now, we always knew that. No, there was a time when we didn't know that. Well, there was a time we said, that's just genetics. That just happens. There was a time when we thought that every aspect or every incident and aspect of osteoporosis was just genetic. It just happened. Either you were unlucky or you were lucky. Either you got it or you didn't. And we realized that lack of calcium in your diet can help can exacerbate that problem, if not altogether cause it. We found out that we've been researching cancer for years. And there was a time prior to 1950s, I believe, that we didn't know some of the regular causes of cancer. We thought, again, hey, this is genetic. That just happens. You're unlucky. Then we found out that, smoking, there's a direct link of smoking to cancer. These are things that and again, they're very easy. They're very, very easy examples. There's some more that are even more recent that are out there that, hey, this year we found out, hey, that thing we thought was genetic is not genetic. It's something that is controllable. It's something that we're actually causing. And I love it when we find those things because it takes away the excuses. I don't feel bad about that. But more importantly, it gives us the power. It gives us the control. It gives us the ability to affect our longevity. I think that's an incredible gift. I celebrate this research so much, and I'm so confident in our ability, our God-given ability for that matter, to reason, to research, to investigate, and that we will eventually find the answer to why do we get arthritis? Is it really genetics? Is Alzheimer's something that is in your genes, or can you actually prevent that? And with all due respect, at the end of the day, I believe that's what we're trying to find out with the millions upon millions that's spent on cancer research. I'm glad it's spent on cancer research. But that's what we're trying to find. We're always trying to find that answer. Nobody gives up on that answer. Again, this drives the point home of what I'm saying in episodes 12 through 16 of the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast, which are called The Lie of Aging. And what I'm constantly saying that, the fact that we believe we're going to deteriorate tomorrow, if that is actually true, then why are we trying to research and find out the things find out that whether or not genetics actually causes all these things? It just seems like those arguments kind of butt heads. But I'm getting way off the subject. There's a new study out, and when I say there's a new study out, there's probably another one out today that I haven't read. I mean, this happens almost every day, and I wouldn't be surprised if I found out that it happened every day. This one that I'm actually talking about, it hit the general public in July of this past year, let's say a year ago, in July 2020. But they did a study, and they were talking about finding out whether or not exercise and the way you react to exercise, the way your body reacts to exercise, if that is in fact tied to DNA. In other words, if Susie goes and runs and Jennifer goes and runs, is it in their DNA how their body is going to react to that run? In other words, are they going to increase endurance or lower endurance or lose weight or what have you? Is that actually tied to DNA? Now, if you start exercising and do not seem to be gaining as much endurance or strength as you had hoped, you might want to switch up your routine, according to this study. This study actually involved twins, and that's something very near and dear to my heart, but it involved twins, and it shows that almost everyone responds to the right exercise program, but the right exercise program can differ from person to person. In other words, if your family seems to be built as for runners, it's just in your genes, my whole family runs, we're all runners, and this is what we do. Or if you are, as my example of that client I told you about, that talking about the genetic fat, if you have a family that seems to be built around being sedentary, that does not mean that in your DNA you were built that way. And this is what this study was all about. Now, I mentioned this study involved twins, and I'm sure that you're not unfamiliar with studies that involve twins and why they use twins because of their DNA, their genes for that matter. The reason for this is that identical twins, share 100% of their DNA. And that's pretty amazing, and it's very beneficial to science and research. Where identical twins share 100%, fraternal twins share about 50% of their DNA. Now, I mentioned earlier this is near and dear to my heart. Why? Because I happen to be a fraternal twin. I have a lovely twin sister by the name of Shannon. I am a minute older than her, and she used to remind people on a regular basis that she was taller than me. Sorry, my lovely sister Shannon. I surpassed you a long time ago, since now you are somewhere in the 5'3" range, and I am the gargantuan 5'6". So I'm sorry to rub that in, but I love you. I love you dearly, ditto. Now, this study, it was actually published in the Journal of Physiology. I'm an exercise physiologist, and I'm not even able to pronounce that word. That's incredible. As I've told many, many people, I studied English, but I don't really speak it. It was published in June of last year in the Journal of Physiology Researchers at the University of Western Australia in Perth is where this took place. And what they did, Perth and at the University of Melbourne, decided to study both the variability and genetics of exercise response by asking pairs of twins to work out together. Now, in this study, they used not only identical twins, they recruited actually 42 sets of young, healthy, and sedentary twins, and 30 pairs of them were identical, and 12 were fraternal. There was a good smattering. Some were male, some were female, and the scientists measured the twins' current endurance and leg strength, then directed them to start exercising. Now, what they did with the exercising is each of the sets of twins worked out together for 2 3-month periods. During one, they ran or cycled for an hour 3 times a week, and depending on which set of twins would run, another set of twins would cycle, whatever, they changed them up. During the other, they lifted weights 3 times a week, also for about an hour. At the end of each 3-month session, the twins returned to the lab, and the researchers rechecked their aerobic capacities and muscle power. Now, aerobic capacity, you've heard me talk about anaerobic and aerobic before. Aerobic means with oxygen. It's exercise with oxygen. In other words, it's like going out and running a 5K. You're running at 75% of maximum heart rate. You're complaining all the time. You really want to stop, but you actually can keep going, because even though your limits are being pushed, you're still able to breathe. That is aerobic. Anaerobic is sprint, recover, sprint, recover, sprint, recover. In other words, getting out of oxygen. And I think everybody understands what measuring muscle power and it is. So it basically involved in their strength. They then compared how various twins' legs and lungs had changed during these exertions. So that's the basis of the study. They had them do a variety of different exercises, had the sets of twins doing the same exercise at the same time, had other sets of twins that might have been doing, like in the first study, some of them were running, some of them were cycling, but whatever a twin was doing, their twin was, of course, doing the exact same thing. Now, the results were extremely telling. Most of the 84 participants increased their endurance during their 3 months of jogging and biking, but not all. So, too, leg strength rose in most of the twins after 3 months in the gym, but stayed relatively puny and few. So some of them gained strength, some of them didn't. Some of them gained endurance, and most of them did gain endurance, but some of them gained more endurance than others. In other words, these volunteers who gained little fitness bang from running substantially pumped up their strength after lifting, and vice versa. So let me break this down. What we found is that person to person, not twin set to twin set, but person to person, they found in this study that though one twin may get incredible gains from running and endurance, the other twin may not. But when they went to strength training, many times they saw the exact reverse. The twin that didn't get a whole lot of endurance or strength or what have you from the running ended up getting incredible gains from the strength training, and got gains in endurance from the strength training. And if you remember my podcast about anaerobic capacity, you can increase endurance, you increase aerobic capacity by doing anaerobic capacity training, which is, of course, strength training is an anaerobic form of exercise. Now, what this study proves is, again, your response to exercise is not associated with genetics or DNA. That's what I said at the beginning, and it's clear that this study proves it. And it's not an observational study. Many times they would ask exercisers, they do calculations on exercisers, and then they would ask them questions, and they would draw their conclusions from that. That's an observational study. They actually tested these individuals. They put them through the exercise. They had them go through. This is a clinical study, and it does prove that the exercise is not genetic related. But something else it proves, and it doesn't really talk about it, but it does prove the same idea. And I've spoken about this in podcast. In fact, it's podcast number 56. I spoke about what speaks to you. Now, I hope you have a chance to hear that podcast. It's the mental aspect of training and exercise, and it's something that we use quite a bit in our practice. As you may know, our mission statement is we seek to make people feel better about being themselves. And I've always said this, nobody comes to us for a physical reason. Now, that may sound silly to you, but nobody comes to us for a physical reason. Everybody comes to see an expert at Personal Edge Fitness for the last 21 years with our incredible success rate. They come to see us to feel better about being themselves. They come to see us for a mental reason. I can use that. Well, what, Garrett, what if somebody comes to you for rehab? Well, there's plenty of people that need what we offer, have the wherewithal, the ability, the time, everything to come and see us, and don't come to see us for that rehab. Then there's others that have the exact same affliction and all the other opportunities and come to see us. Why? Because the first person, it doesn't bother them. It doesn't play into their mind. It's of no importance. They don't mind not having the mobility in that rotator cuff. Whereas the other person that comes to see us, yeah, it affects them. It affects them in the mind. And many people will be overweight for many years, and all of a sudden one day they'll make a decision, okay, I'm going to go and do something about it. Now it has bothered something. It has changed something in their mind. Now, how does that relate to the study? Well, the reason I am not surprised to see that they came out with these results. First thing, I know that I know from being an exercise scientist that preference towards exercise and your reaction to exercise is not built in your DNA. I've seen it in my practice. I've seen endurance athletes in a family, and I've seen incredible strength athletes in a family, and the endurance athlete is horrible at the strength, and the strength athlete's horrible at the endurance. I've seen that over and over again. What a reason I'm relating this to the brain, and what I spoke about in Exercise 56 is that you're going to get a far better response. You're going to have, actually, I argue that you're going to have success when you train something that speaks to you, when you train something that, this is my thing, this is my workout, I love slinging steel, I love to go for a run, whatever it is. And you may I despise cycling, I hate swimming, but running means something to me, or strength training means something to me, or cycling means something to me. You're going to have far better results. I even argue that if you're forced to do one of the other activities by a family member, and too many times, being forced by a health professional because that's what they studied and that's the perfect program that they dreamed up, instead of doing what a trainer's supposed to do, and that is shape the program for what speaks to you. If you do those things, you're forced to do those things, you're not going to have results. In fact, most of the time, you're going to quit. That's probably... Most people will find the value in this study in finding out that DNA does not dictate your response to exercise. And I understand that, and that is important. I think it's fantastic. For what I have always preached, what I've always believed, that in order to really answer the question, you've got to solve the problem for your head. It's got to work for your head. Because at the end of the day, no matter what you may tell yourself, you're in this to make yourself feel better about being you, period. You can make the argument that, I'm here to fix my arm, I'm not into that mumbo jumbo. I promise you, you live to make yourself feel better about yourself, and you look at your exercise the same way. And it is proven now. Our good friends at the University of Australia in Perth and the University of Melbourne have proven that, once again, it is all about seeking and finding your level of wellness. If you enjoyed the podcast, I ask you, please like it and share it. I would love to have other people get a chance to experience this. I really do appreciate your attention, and I appreciate you listening to the podcast. If you have any questions about this podcast or any other, please contact me at Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com, my email address. You can contact us via the website at personaledgefitness.com, and also our Facebook page, which is Personal Edge Fitness. Be more than glad to speak to you on the phone or set up a consultation to help you find your level of wellness. You can contact us at 251-341-0927. That's the mobile location. And also at 251-651-0927, which is the Eastern Shore location. If you're hearing this podcast and you're not in our area, no problem whatsoever. We have a fantastic online program. We work with people and have the ability to work with people around the world. So we would love to help you, as always, either by sharing that it's not the excuse of genetics, or by sharing that really you need to be working out with what speaks to you. No matter what we're sharing with you as far as that goes, we're always trying to help you find your level of wellness.
Thanks for listening to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast with Garrett Williamson. Subscribe now and be a part of the show by calling 251-278-EDGE or message us on Facebook and Instagram at Personal Edge Fitness or at Team PE on Twitter, and visit us at personaledgefitness.com.